Greetings everybody. Today I'm going to review a fruit that is not all that interesting. However, it's one that I have never done a proper review on. It's this guy, the green jujube. As you can see here, it looks kind of like a green plum, or kind of like an apple in a way. Maybe if you were to cross a plum and an apple together. And it's quite firm. It's a firm fruit. And yeah, not that interesting. However, to make this episode a little bit more engaging, I'm not going to be doing this alone. I have a co-host today, Vostok. As I review this fruit, she's also going to be reviewing one of her own. There you go. The green jujube is a fruit that you'll find all throughout Southeast Asia and in India and Central Asia as well. I've seen these things all over the place. I've seen them in Thailand, I've seen these in Laos. Laos, they're like really common actually. You see them in big bags of them available at like bus stations and stuff like that. However, there isn't like a whole lot of information out there about these. It took me a little bit of time actually to just find out what species this is, because there's a lot of conflicting information out there. It turns out that this is in the same species as the bear fruit, not B-E-A-R, but B-E-R. That's a very common jujube species in India. You find that a lot of street vendors will sell that one. This one is just a different cultivar, but as you can see, it's a lot bigger than those little bear fruits that I had in the past. Where the confusion comes in is that there is a more spoken about jujube out there, the Chinese jujube. Chinese jujubes are very common, and they just seem to have a little bit better marketing online. If you search for jujube, the Chinese jujube usually comes up first, not this one. And because of that, a lot of articles online, they talk about this one and put the wrong species name on it and say it's the Chinese jujube. But no, this is a green jujube, also known as an Indian jujube, also known as a Thai jujube or Taiwan jujube. A lot of different names to this thing, but it is not the Chinese jujube. Isn't that right, Vostok? This one here that I've been showing you is unripe. When they ripen, they actually get a little bit of a yellow color to them like this. And some people prefer them to have a little bit of yellow because it makes them sweeter. And then as it gets darker, it'll actually get a little bit of a brown color to it. And it's a matter of preference. However, I find that as these things get older, I don't like the flavor as much, and the texture gets a little mealy. When they're unripe like this, they have a much nicer texture. But we'll try it a few different ways. When you cut it open, it looks a little bit more like a plum and less like an apple. The outside is very thin. It's got a very thin skin to it. So when you bite through it, it kind of gives the same way like a plum would. But then the inside, instead of being like a soft, juicy texture like you would get with a plum, it is more like a very crisp apple. Maybe a little bit like an Asian pear in texture. But the reason why these things are not super interesting, in my opinion, is the flavor. It doesn't really have much. There's not much there. They're a little bit sweet. This is like a 1 out of 10, sometimes like a 2. Let's give it a 2, because this one is especially not super sweet. It is kind of like if you were to take an apple, like a crisp green apple, take out all the sourness and almost all the flavor and most of the sweetness, that's what you're left with. I would actually buy these and eat them, but not for the flavor. This is the sort of thing you might want to actually like put something on, put some salt on it or something, just to give it some kind of flavor. When I say that these aren't interesting, it doesn't mean that I don't like them. Just there isn't much to talk about. Right, Vostok? So this one here has a little bit more yellow coloring to it. So I think maybe this one's going to be a little bit sweeter. Let's give that a try. That last one was like a 1. This is like a 2. A little bit sweeter. Flavor is the same. I don't have any that are fully brown all the way around, but this one is getting there. This is probably the darkest of all of them. You can see a little bit of brown there. I don't like it like this. Even that little bit of brown there makes it taste stale. The texture is still pretty good. I've heard that these things get pretty mealy when they get older. This isn't mealy, maybe a little bit, but it's still pretty good with texture. It has a bit of the flavor of a mealy apple, but not the texture of a mealy apple, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I prefer it, the first one. The first one I had, where it had the least flavor, had the best texture. And when I say that it's not interesting, it doesn't mean I don't like it. There's not much to talk about. There's some use to it. I think you could use that. There is some nutritional benefit to that. I saw a study online saying that the nutrition of this particular type is much greater than that of the smaller bear fruits. So it's good for you. I would eat that because it's refreshing. I would eat that because of the texture. I would not be eating that because I want something flavorful. So if you buy that, sprinkle some lime juice on it or something. That would maybe be a good way to go. But on its own, I would like to give a shout out to Smarter Every Day, AltPod, and the Harvard Leaf Tea Company. They are mega patrons over on patreon.com. If you haven't heard of it, patreon.com it's how this channel happens. It's how I can afford to keep this YouTube channel going. So if you haven't checked it out, please take a moment to go into the description below and click the link there. I also have t-shirts for sale over at my web store. A link to that is in the description as well. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.